All right, we're back in session. I appreciate you all wanting to cooperate so we could deal with that issue. And we'll request there was no decision made in executive session. So we will proceed to finish the grievance. Before I move to the last paragraph, is there any other discussion on this third paragraph? No? Okay, yeah, I know. I'm giving you time.
I got my name. Yeah, so as I was saying before, I don't, the insubordinate thing bothers me enough. That's part of the reason that there's some bristling about this opinion, because to turn it back to Dr. Harding is not appropriate, and for her standing up for herself isn't considered insubordination. So she's pointing these things out, and then it's being turned back on her. And I just think that
I feel like I'm not recognizing it.
No, and again, I want to emphasize this.
I wasn't even going to talk about it,
This is
so I know.
not a grievance about Dr. Harding. It's a grievance brought by Dr. Harding. And we are not going to put no grievance on Dr. Harding. That's his opinion.
right.
So we as a board, I am not recommending that we do that.
Right, but my point is that it was a pointing out of things instead of. I guess I'm not. Okay.
Because I think what we're saying is that we're like my opinion too is that we're not supposed to be talking about Dr. Harding. We're supposed to be talking about Dr. Luken's. So I'm not going to recognize what is written in here about. And it's like I'm not the investigator. I don't know why he decided to write it that way. I can't tell him to reverse it. I just think it's saying to me that's irrelevant right now.
It is my job to bring this forward, and I'm not asking for a grievance against Dr. Harding. I'm not asking for that.
Right.
And I know you're upset by the thing, but I can't do anything about that.
But I think there should be. I move we put Dr. Luken's on an improvement plan. There.
What's that?
I move we put Dr. Luken's on an improvement plan.
Is there a second to that motion?
Is it consisting of her?
No. Is there a second to the motion to put him on a plan? Now I'm going to talk about this. Is there a second to putting Dr. Luken's on a plan? And I want to, before I do the second, in Spencer's thing, I want to read to you what I was told to do if this got brought up. And I was prepared for this as well. Okay? So if the board makes any motion stemming from this, there is no logic. If by chance the board moves to issue Dr. Luken's a reprimand or an improvement plan, then I suggest to discuss and move on what the terms are, and then allow the board president to draft a document to present it for approval at a later date. So that is, if she wants to do a plan, and there's a second, you'll discuss what you want in the plan, and then you will allow me as the board president to come up with that, draft a plan, and then you will approve my plan, or amend my plan, or change my plan. So, with that, is there a second to her motion to put him on an improvement plan? Is there a second to her motion to put him on an improvement plan?
I'll second the motion to talk.
Okay? The property mover second to put him on an improvement plan.
This is
Okay, we're going to discuss what you want, discuss whether he should be on an improvement plan.
my thoughts. Is when I'm thinking about all this, it seems like the big thing is communication. It seems like we have a massive communication issue, and even in this report, we just went over the last paragraph to, not trying to demonize or anything, but like if we had some sort of just an idea of like, hey, Dr. Lukens, I think maybe try to work on your communication. And we work together on that. Like, I don't see any harm in that. You know, there certainly could be value. And, you know, having our admin team, having the rest, you know, like working together, like trying to make sure that we're communicating as best as we are. Because I feel like this whole situation, the biggest thing that I keep hearing over and over again is that we're not communicating good enough. And communication is so key within any organization if we're going to have wheels that are oiled and turning. And if we can improve on that, just all in all, I see value in it. I don't know what your thoughts were, but to me, that's what it seems like to me. It's like if we talked about communication.
So are you talking about communication, or are you actually talking about a formal improvement plan?
Well, isn't an improvement plan just a plan to improve? Like, so if we talk about communication, it's just a plan to improve communication?
Formally,
What's
he has to
steps
actually
or
go,
whatever?
he has to go through and
I don't know. Like, basically what I'm getting out of all this is, like, again, like, I think, like, organizationally wide, it's like, we all need to communicate better. And I think I want us to start getting back to working as a cohesive unit that is focused on the business of the school district, which is educating outstanding youth. That's where I want to get back to. And if we can, whether it's formal or not, as long as we have it continued and we have a strong effort on enhancing communication with the organization, I think that finds value, no matter what. That's all I'm saying.
I think there is improvement plan forms, right?
How many times are we as a board going to say everybody makes mistakes and not do anything? Do you know how frustrated the school staff is? Any idea? Anybody talk to any of them? I'm sorry, but if we do nothing, we are going to lose more staff, and you know we've lost a lot. I don't even know what to say about the apparent lack of will to put a letter of reprimand in this file to, yet you can only do so many things that are against century codes and say, I didn't know. The excuses are long.
So what's your recommendation?
Again, Vanessa, I would need the board discuss and what terms that you want in this improvement plan. So then I would need to do that, and I would need to work on that and bring it back to you. So what terms are you talking about? What are you talking about improving on? Specifically.
Specifically, doing his job. Doing things in a timely fashion, taking accountability for things that he's not doing right. And I know we discussed this over the last year and a half. It's like everybody makes mistakes, but I don't feel that there's ever been actual
Okay, so that's more than what he was
ownership.
saying then, right? You were talking communication?
Yeah, communication obviously is a piece, but it goes beyond that. Working together with people instead of pushing back.
James, let's hear your opinion.
Yeah, everyone needs better communication. It takes two people to facilitate that. I talk to other people and I still see the problem. When some people don't like each other, well, there's no communication. And that's a prime example of what happens.
So you feel
So how do you improve communication when people don't like working with each other?
Okay, I want to read this. I wrote this. I kind of alluded to it, but this is an example of one of the things that has gone on. The phrase "it's all about what's best for the kids" has been used around this table repeatedly. I agree, that must be our focus. That means that as board members, our number one priority is to have quality prepared teachers standing at the front of the classroom when the kids are there. Last summer, there was uncertainty about staffing in the grade school. The teachers were understandably anxious to find out what class they would be teaching and begin preparations. Dr. Harding was trying to solve this problem, as is her job. Dr. Luken's reasoning for not working with Dr. Harding towards solving that problem was that she was not on contract. First of all, we already worked language into the principal's contract that allowed for flexibility so they would be able to deal with those issues that arise during the summer months when they were off contract. I pointed this out to Dr. Lucas repeatedly last summer. It was not a violation of the principal's contracts to request they need to discuss these issues. Additionally, Dr. Harding was more than willing to address the situation without additional compensation. Her priority was to her teachers and students. Dr. Starlight indicated in his report that we should work on figuring out who is in charge of such issues as staffing when the principals are off contract. We already did. Dr. Luken violated the chain of command, the principal's contract, and the intent of the board by calling teachers who were also off contract and keeping Dr. Harding out of the loop. Our grade school teachers spend many hours each summer preparing for the upcoming school year. Some of them didn't even know which grade they would be teaching until less than 2 weeks before the first day of school. That is one example of many.
What?
I think the biggest key out of all of this is communication. We need everybody to sit down together, and whether it's staffing or whatever it is. So I guess I'd be okay with the communications, and then if you follow along with it to make sure that whether it's principals and him, whether it's teachers and him, whether it's teachers and principals, and whether it's whatever it is, that we get this communication better.
But how can you even say it's just communication when last summer you blatantly disregarded?
But that would come out with that then, because he's going to be following. He's going to have to. He has to. That's what he's going to have to do.
You're directing me to write a communication. You're directing me in her motion to.
Well, that's what her motion meant.
Yeah, her motion, and then you're directing me to write this based on what we say. And again,
so he's
you have
the
to
one
give me a
that's
reasonable time to write this, and then I would bring it to you, and you can tweak it. And I will try to do my best.
Well,
And then he has to be in the process all the way through.
Yep.
well, and then, have some, like, correspondence or something, because when we have motions at the table, at public, we're here to conduct business, not to, we need to have a motion of substance. So if something can be put together, I need to look at something and see the substance of something before I make a responsible decision.
Your motion is to put
to draft something.
Your motion is to direct the president to write a, what's the word I'm looking for here? Well, not a communication plan. What was your motion?
It's a personal improvement plan.
Yeah, to write a personal improvement plan, personal communication improvement plan. How's that? Okay, personal communication program. And please give me reasonable time to write that. And we will bring it at a meeting down the road. If you decide. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Any other discussion? So the motion on the floor is that you are directing the school board president to write a personal communication plan. Dr. Lucas. Maybe some?
You didn't say improvement.
Okay. Sorry. Personal communication plan. All in favor of this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion is passed, and you need to give me a reasonable time to do that. Okay, now, we need to talk about one more thing. Okay? I'm going to talk about this last paragraph, and this is the attorneys want an official, they say we should have an official motion on this. So, I'm going to read the last paragraph. Ultimately, Dr. Luken is a superintendent, and he is tasked with supervising and directing Dr. Harding. Unless the school board directs that he no longer supervisor, which is not what I am recommending, nor am I recommending it. So he will need to continue so and need to improve this. So I would like a motion. I am recommending a motion that Dr. Lukens is still served as their supervisor to maintain authority and evaluate feedback on her activity. I have a motion to that?
Make a motion to
A
that.
second?
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Why do we need that?
Yeah, because that's what the attorneys say, that we need to have a motion that he is still in charge of her.
Basically, the motion is we're not
Basically, it
changing the
says
organizational chart.
the buck stops with him, and if we're having any grievances, we hope we work them out. We hope we're going to get them worked out. But we're saying is that he is still in charge of supervising Dr. Harding. Discussion. 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 Seeing no discussion, all in favor of the motion that Dr. Harding is still in charge of her supervision, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. All right, that concludes my report, unless someone else has something to add. Okay? I think we handled it professionally. All right, we'll move on with the agenda, which would be calendar draft.
Okay, so the draft in your packets. We share it out. You do not have to have the calendar tonight. You're welcome to take the meeting. You're also welcome to give feedback and give it to me, and I will address it as.
Anybody have any questions? So you have presented this to who?
I have not really put it out much. I was going to bring it to you guys.
And you will give it to both principals and so both principals?
Yeah, my
both of our
intention was to
staff?
have it at cabinet on Tuesday.
Okay,
I
okay.
didn't have it at cabinet on Tuesday. I'll make sure they have it.
Okay, all right, and both of you make sure that you have input.
And you got it the other day that I got it.
Okay, so you're both going to make sure you have input into this, please. Make sure your staff has input.
I understand the math needs some work.
That's why they need input. Okay.
I mean,
Okay,
I understand the
Yeah,
math
okay.
itself is-
okay. Any other discussion? And we don't need a motion on this? All right. Without further ado, Dan from Indy, you're up, man.
Okay. All right. I don't know if you could take out your. Sorry, I have a cough when I talk sometimes, so bear with me. If you can take out your expenditure report from the packet. Now let me go through this with you, and then after, if you have a question, you can certainly ask it. Okay? You guys ready? So as you can see, just so everybody knows, on the left side, that's where all our codes are. You can see what every code means. You can see the subcategories for each, such as your school board's at the very top one. So if you go down school board and then you scroll down to where it says the last 7, 2310 330, that's your other professional services, your audit software. Okay, so that's how that works on this side. What I'm looking at here is on the top, you'll see the headings. I mean, I'm sure most of you know how to read this. I'm just going over it to tell you what I'm looking at. My budget, that's how much I put in the system. How much was created in the budget and how much I put in the system for each line. Okay. Expended during the month, I don't look at that as much as I like to look at the date. Expended today and percent of budget is the most important piece for me. Okay, so what I thought was, won't take too long. Let me go through each of these categories with you. I had a thought on a few of these numbers that I can give you some insights. So what I would tell you to do is just go to the percentage of budget and follow me down, okay? So the first is school board, 2310. Percent of budget used, you can see the bottom is only at 41%. I don't think there was anything I wanted to talk about on this one. I know your legal fees, you can see 138% over budget. That's just from having long calls with the attorney, things like that. At any time, you can always ask for a ledger, which is just, if you ask for a ledger, that just means I can give you a sheet that shows you every time I've charged the account and what it was. Okay? Keep going down. Dues and fees. That's over by 162%, about $6,000. And to me, I think that with the legal fees and the dues and fees, some of it has to do with, I mean, we can't help some. We need to talk to the lawyer. We need to talk to the lawyer, right? So that's where I think that's over with. But as you can see, you've only used 41% of your total budget under the 2310 line. Okay? So overall, it's still looking just fine. But I can certainly give you a ledger there for those two if you'd like. Executive administration, the second, the 2310 you can see on the far left side. That's Robbie's, or Dr. Luken's. He's only used 43% of the budget. That one, the other one that's over is dues and fees. I can certainly give you a ledger of that if you'd like. If you go down even more, we've got student transportation. I did make a note that you can see under student transportation on the second line, you can see that the temporary salaries is at 183% used. That is over because we have had to pay some families to drive in the kids. And at the very bottom, you can see that there's the line item with repair parts is 302% over. That's what we use for the new bus motor. Okay, so that's why that's over. Okay, but you can certainly see a ledger if you want. If you turn the page with me, the rest of that's fine. You've only used 64%. The next one is fine, 52%. The next one, 18. So let's go down to the second to last on this page, instructional media services. Okay, and sometimes you have to look at the amount budgeted. You can't just look at the percentage. Because like for something like this, if you go to instructional media services on a 610 supply line, you've used 144% of the budget there, or the district has. But I mean, the budget was only $375 and you used 500, so 540. So I mean, it's not like you're over 20,000 or something ridiculous. I mean, you're just over not even $200. So that I don't see as a big deal. That's really it for that page. Turn the page again with me.
What page are you
I'm on page 3, at the very top. We'll go to elementary instruction, if you see that one. So here's where we start getting into the actual elementary school. This one, they've had to order some textbooks and some workbooks, so those are over. But overall, they've only used 43%. I can certainly give you a ledger for those two if you'd like. Temporary salaries, we've had to use a lot of substitutes. I know I pay a lot of subs. That gives me the most grief during payroll. I spend hours on subs. So there you go. That's only at 43% though. You'll see good at the top where your regular salary, you only use 31%, okay, and that's good. And that'll stay pretty low because then at the end of the year is when we pay out the contract. Okay, so that's good there. Only use 43%, which is about right because somebody can correct me, but if I'm thinking about it right, the end of this month is about halfway through school year. Am I thinking about that right? If we started at the end of August, about 5 months.
And they should be well under the 50, right?
Yeah,
Because
so-
in May,
So if we're 45% through the year or whatever, I mean, these numbers are following that path here. Guidance is just fine for elementary. Office of the principal, the only thing that's over there is travel, but as you can see, it says I've used 129% of Dr. Harding's travel budget, but you know, she had 500, we've used 646. I mean, you see, that's not, that 129% over is not something I would be worried about. It's over by 146. So, you know, that's fine to me. She's only at 40% of her budget. If you turn the page 4, it's operation and maintenance of plant. The one thing I wanted to point out on this was you'll see on the heating oil line on page 4 on the top, 149.42%. See that? That is over just under $4,000 because the coal boiler breaks down and they have to use heating oil. Okay, so that's why that's over about 4,000. Okay, but overall, the operation and maintenance plan at the elementary is on about 41.69% usage or used. You can go down to the next item, the educable mentally handicapped instruction. Nothing really to go over there, unless you guys would like. Only 26% used. Then you go down to the speech impaired instruction on the bottom of page 4. Nothing much going on there. We can turn to page 5 then. And we can keep going down here. Well, now we're at the learning disabled instruction on page 5. Percent of budget, there's nothing there to talk about, unless you want to. It's 31% used there. So we'll go down to other instructional programs. There's nothing there. Food services, food service operations, only at 50%, which is about right. And then we'll go down to the instructional media services. For the high school, this is high school instructional media services at the bottom of page 5. The only number that stood out to me was that 104.97% use of budget, if you guys can see that. You're following with there. That one, again, look at the numbers. There was a budgeted amount of 500. They've used 524. $24. So it says, well, I mean, but that 104 doesn't get to me. So, on the next page 6 here, nothing stuck out in middle to junior high school or middle and junior high instruction. That's only 34% used. The office of the principal, only 30% used. Actually, that one here, yeah, okay, that's good. High school instruction. So this is the high school as a whole on the bottom of page 6. The only thing I did want to note there is under other professional services. So it's the second from the bottom, on the very bottom of page 6. You'll see the parentheses. $3,942.56 parentheses. That's actually, we started with 4,000. I've actually put in money because we had a student for student services from another district in Animus, and I deposited money that they gave us for those services on 7/24, and I haven't used any out of that account, so that's why there's a parenthesis there. So it's not a bad thing. It's, if anything, it would be a good thing. And the only other thing that I see here is temporary salaries on high school instruction is at 101.74%. They're currently at $418 over that, which obviously they have to keep doing that the rest of the year, so that's going to keep going up. But it just goes back to the substitutes. We have to use so many substitutes. I know they have a paraeducator that's out. Everything goes into that. There's a lot of substitutes, and that's why that number is so high, and you can expect that to keep rising. But I can give you a ledger of that. We can discuss that if you'd like. Okay, so page 7 now. I'm at the top of page 7. The only thing I want to talk about on this first one here, up at the top, which is actually, oh, it's still high school instruction, sorry, but now we're looking at page 7 at the top under textbooks. That is over by about 2,000. I had to pull something here that was textbooks or that were ordered before Kelly and I even were here. And so that's why that is over. I can certainly give you a ledger and discuss that with you if you want to know why that's $2,000 over. But other than that, high school instruction is only at 52%. So 2% over half, but a lot of that comes from the substitutes. So we can keep going down. The guidance is good, 20%. Office of the principal, he's only at 18%. And again, just like the elementary on office of the principal, the only thing that is over there is travel for $150, and that's why that says it's 130% of the budget used. But overall, he's at 18%.